Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The cracks begin to show. Danny Hayes stood in his kitchen, gripping his coffee mug with white knuckles. The burnt coffee aroma filled his nostrils, a smell that used to signal the start of cherished mornings with his wife. Now, at 34, the marketing manager found himself alone in the silence. The empty chair across from him a stark reminder of the growing distance between him and Eleanor. Ellie Hayes, his wife of 7 years, had transformed from the vibrant, loving woman he married into someone he barely recognized. The change hadn't happened overnight. It crept in slowly, like poison seeping through their marriage. At 33, the freelance graphic designer had become a ghost in their relationship, present in body but absent in spirit. Danny set down his mug with controlled force, his jaw clenching as he recalled their latest interaction. Last night, he'd heard her on the phone, speaking in hushed tones, her voice carrying an intimacy that made his blood boil. "No, I can't talk right now," she'd whispered, unaware of his presence outside their bedroom door. "I'll call you back later when I'm alone." The memory of their first meeting at the college art fair flickered through his mind. She'd worn a flowing bohemian dress, her laugh echoing across the campus quad as she explained the meaning behind her abstract paintings. Her independence and creativity had drawn him in, made him fall hard and fast. "Those were different times," he muttered, pulling out his phone to check his work emails. The screen displayed a message from his secretary about an upcoming marketing campaign presentation. Work had become his sanctuary, a place where he still maintained control. Their apartment, once a haven of shared dreams, now felt like a prison of unspoken words and mounting tension. Danny's colleagues had noticed the change in him. Just yesterday, his assistant Sarah had approached his office with concern. "Mr. Hayes, is everything all right? You seem different lately." He dismissed her with a sharp, "I'm fine," before immediately regretting his tone. The old Danny would never have snapped at his team. That evening, Danny attempted another conversation with Ellie. She sat at her desk, focused on her laptop screen, her back turned toward him. "We need to talk," he said, his voice firm. Ellie's shoulders tensed. "I'm working on a deadline, Danny. Can it wait? Like everything else?" The bitterness in his voice made her flinch. She swiveled in her chair, meeting his gaze with defensive irritation. "What's that supposed to mean? When was the last time we had a real conversation, Ellie? When was the last time you weren't working or busy or taking mysterious phone calls?" Her eyes darted away, a tell he'd come to recognize. "You're being paranoid. I've just been swamped with projects. Projects that require secret phone conversations, late-night meetings that you never talk about." Ellie stood abruptly, gathering her laptop. "I don't have to justify my work schedule to you." "Your work schedule? Or your time with Aaron?" The name hung in the air between them. Ellie's face paled slightly before she composed herself. "Aaron? My college friend in Berlin? What about him?" Danny's laugh was hollow. Funny how he never came up in conversation until recently. 7 years of marriage, and suddenly he's such an important part of your life. He's an old friend who's doing well in tech. "We've reconnected professionally, that's all." Her voice wavered slightly. "Professional enough for you to plan a solo trip to Europe?" The announcement came the next day, over a dinner that tasted like ash in Danny's mouth. Ellie sat across from him, her plate untouched, her hands fidgeting with her napkin. "I need a break," she declared, her voice steady but unable to meet his eyes. "I've booked a tour of Europe. Solo. I need to find myself." Danny's fork clattered against his plate. "Find yourself? In Europe? With Aaron conveniently located in Berlin?" "This isn't about Aaron." Ellie's voice rose defensively. "Why do you keep bringing him up? This is about me, about what I need." "What you need?" Danny's voice remained dangerously calm. "What about what we need? Our marriage?" "That's exactly why I need this break. We're different people now, Danny. I need space to figure things out." He watched her pack that night, his heart hardening with each item she placed in her suitcase. The woman folding clothes meticulously wasn't the same person who danced with him in their living room to vintage vinyl records. She wasn't the same Ellie who'd stayed up late discussing their dreams of starting a family. The next morning, Danny met his best friend Ben Carter at his bar before opening hours. The familiar smell of stale beer and cleaning supplies provided little comfort as he recounted the situation. Ben wiped down the counter with practiced movements, his expression grim. "Europe? Solo? Brother, you know what that means?" "She says she needs to find herself," Danny replied, staring into his coffee. "Nobody goes to Europe to find themselves anymore, man. They go there to lose themselves, usually with someone else." Ben leaned forward, his voice serious. "Remember Jenny from accounting? Her husband went to find himself in Asia. Came back with a 22-year-old yoga instructor. Ellie wouldn't do that to me." But even as he spoke the words, Danny's gut twisted with doubt. "Look," Ben set down his rag, "I've known you since we were kids. You're my best friend, and that's why I'm telling you this. Start documenting everything. Get a lawyer on speed dial. Just in case." Danny shook his head, but Ben persisted. "I'm serious, man. Save all communications. Keep records of her trips. Document any suspicious behavior. If this goes south, you'll need proof." "You really think she's capable of that? The Ellie we knew?" "No, but this person she's becoming." Ben shrugged. "I don't know her anymore, and neither do you." That conversation planted a seed in Danny's mind. Despite his resistance to Ben's suggestions, he found himself creating a folder on his laptop. He began saving screenshots of Ellie's social media activity, her travel itinerary, and their text exchanges. Each piece of evidence felt like another nail in the coffin of their marriage. The day Ellie left, Danny stood in their apartment, surrounded by the ghosts of their relationship. Photos on the wall showed happier times. Their wedding day, vacations, family gatherings. He took them down one by one, storing them in a box he shoved into the back of their closet. His phone buzzed with a message from Ellie. "Boarding now. I'll call when I land." Danny didn't respond. Instead, he opened his laptop and created a new document titled Timeline of Events. As he typed out the date and details of her departure, a cold determination settled over him. If his wife was playing games, he would make sure he held all the cards. "Document everything," he muttered, echoing Ben's advice. Just in case. The coming months would prove just how prophetic those words would be. Chapter 2. The Return and the Bombshell. 3 months passed like a blur of empty rooms and sleepless nights. Danny threw himself into his work, earning praise from his superiors but concerned glances from his team. The marketing department's success rates soared under his ruthless attention to detail and uncompromising standards. His apartment had become a shrine to Ellie's absence. Her books remained scattered on shelves, her clothes hung untouched in the closet, but her presence had faded like old photographs. Danny avoided the spaces she used to occupy, turning their shared office into a war room of documentation and evidence. One Tuesday evening, as Danny reviewed quarterly reports in his office, his phone lit up with Ellie's name. His heart rate spiked, but his voice remained steady as he answered. "Hello, Eleanor." The use of her full name wasn't lost on her. There was a pause before she spoke. "Danny, I'm coming home. Are you?" And here I thought Berlin might have become permanent. His tone could have frozen hell. "Danny, please. We need to talk. Face to face. Like we talked before you left? Or like all those conversations you had with Aaron?" Another pause. "This is important. I'll be home tomorrow evening." Danny ended the call without responding. He opened his laptop, adding the conversation to his growing documentation. Over the past months, Ellie had called only twice, both times asking for money, claiming issues with her European bank accounts. He transferred the funds, knowing each transaction added to his evidence. The next evening, Danny sat in their living room, a glass of whiskey in hand, waiting. When the key turned in the lock, he didn't stand to greet her. Ellie entered, looking tanned and somehow both nervous and triumphant. "Danny," she started, setting down her bags. "We need to—" "Sit down, Eleanor." His voice was controlled, masking the rage beneath. "Tell me about Berlin." "About Aaron." She flinched at Aaron's name, but recovered quickly. "Danny, that's not important right now. I have news." Something that will help our marriage. Danny's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. Our marriage? The one you abandoned for 3 months? The one you've been destroying long before that. I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air like smoke. Danny's grip on his glass tightened until his knuckles turned white. Pregnant, he repeated, his voice devoid of emotion. Ellie's face broke into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Yes. Isn't it wonderful? This is exactly what we needed. A baby will bring us closer, help us rebuild. When? Danny interrupted. What? When did you get pregnant, Eleanor? She shifted uncomfortably. The doctors say I'm about 2 months along. It must have been right before I left. Liar. The word came out as a whisper, but it might as well have been a shout. Excuse me? Ellie's face hardened. Danny set down his glass and opened his laptop. You want to talk about timing? Let's talk about timing. Let's talk about your hotel bookings in Berlin, your credit card statements, your phone records. Color drained from Ellie's face. You've been spying on me? Spying? No, Eleanor. I've been protecting myself. Something told me I needed to start the moment you mentioned your college friend, Aaron. Danny, you're being ridiculous. This is your child. Is it? He turned the laptop toward her, displaying a spreadsheet of dates and transactions. Because according to this, you spent 2 weeks in Berlin with Aaron. In the same hotel. Same floor. Convenient, isn't it? Ellie's expression shifted from shock to anger. You had no right to track me like this. I had every right. Danny's voice finally rose. I'm your husband, the man you promised to love and respect. Instead, you've been planning this fraud. Fraud! Ellie laughed nervously. Danny, you're paranoid. The stress is making you paranoid. Danny stood, his height suddenly imposing. Then explain these. He pulled out a stack of papers. Phone records, hotel receipts, bank statements. Explain why you needed money transfers when your credit card shows daily charges at Berlin cafes. Explain the phone calls to Aaron that started months before your trip. Ellie's facade cracked. You don't understand. Aaron and I... Oh, I understand perfectly. Danny's voice turned cold again. You thought you could come back, claim this child as mine, and what? Get child support? Alimony? Live off my income while you play happy family with your tech entrepreneur. It's not like that. Tears began falling from Ellie's eyes. Things with Aaron, they just happened. But this, babe, save it. Danny moved to his briefcase, pulling out more documents. I've already contacted my lawyer. These are divorce papers. You'll find them quite thorough. Ellie's tears dried instantly, replaced by calculation. Divorce papers? Danny, think about what you're doing. Think about our history, our future. Think about the baby. Your baby, he corrected. Not mine. You can't prove that, she snapped, mask finally dropping. And no judge will deny child support to a pregnant woman. I'll tell them about your anger issues, how you frightened me so much I had to flee to Europe. Danny's laugh was genuine this time. Anger issues? You mean like the ones you're inventing right now? The ones I've been documenting don't exist for the past 3 months? Ellie's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I mean, Eleanor, that I've been recording our interactions, documenting my whereabouts, building a case. Because something in my gut told me you'd try something like this. You're bluffing. Am I? He opened another folder on his laptop. Here's my therapy sessions, started them when you left. Here's character witnesses from my colleagues, friends, family. Here's our joint account history, showing no signs of financial abuse. Here's your credit card statements, showing no signs of fleeing in fear. Ellie's face contorted with fury. You bastard. You've been planning this? No, Eleanor. I've been protecting myself. You're the one who's been planning. The question is, what exactly did you and Aaron plan? Because I doubt he knows about your little pregnancy scheme. The color drained from her face again. Leave Aaron out of this. Why? Afraid he might not want to play daddy to someone else's kid? Or afraid he might realize you're trying to scam both of us? I want a lawyer, Ellie declared, standing up. By all means. Danny gestured to the papers. Have your lawyer contact mine. I'm sure they'll find everything in order. As Ellie stormed toward the bedroom, Danny called after her. Oh, and Eleanor? Don't bother with the abuse allegations. I've got witnesses for every interaction we've had since you left. Better think of another angle. That night, as Ellie slept in the guest room, Danny sat in his office, adding to his documentation. His hands never shook, his resolve never wavered. The man who had once loved Ellie with all his heart was gone, replaced by someone harder, colder, more calculating. He picked up his phone and dialed Ben. "You were right," he said when his friend answered. "About everything?" "Shit, man. I'm sorry. What are you going to do?" Danny looked at the wall of evidence he'd compiled. "I'm going to destroy them both." Chapter 3. The Gathering Storm. The morning after Ellie's return, Danny contacted Amelia Amy Walker. His old college friend had become one of the city's most formidable family lawyers, known for her ruthless efficiency and meticulous attention to detail. She agreed to meet him during her lunch break. Amy's office occupied the 20th floor of a downtown high-rise, the decor as sharp and precise as the woman herself. She greeted Danny with a warm hug that belied her professional demeanor. "Danny Hayes," she said, guiding him to her desk. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "So do I, Amy." He placed his laptop and files on her desk. "But I need the best. And that's you." Amy's lips curved into a predatory smile. "Tell me everything." For the next hour, Danny laid out his case. He showed her the documentation, the timeline, the evidence he gathered. Amy's expression grew, increasingly impressed. "Danny," she said, reviewing his files, "this is incredibly thorough. Most clients come to me with nothing but suspicions and broken hearts. You've built half my case for me." "I learned from the best," he replied, remembering their law study groups in college. "Will it be enough?" "Enough?" Amy laughed. "With this documentation, we're going to crucify them." "But," she tapped her pen thoughtfully, "we could use more. More proof of the affair. Concrete evidence of their time together in Berlin. Something that would destroy any chance of her claiming this child is yours." Amy leaned forward. "I know someone, a private investigator named Joe Hawkins. We call him Hawk. He's expensive, but he's the best." Danny didn't hesitate. "Set it up." 2 hours later, they sat in a small cafe 3 blocks from Amy's office. Hawk proved to be a weathered man in his 50s, with calculating eyes that missed nothing. He listened to Danny's situation without interruption, occasionally making notes in a small black notebook. "Berlin, Hawk's voice was gravelly from years of cigarettes. "International cases are tricky, but not impossible. Your documentation gives us a good starting point." "I need everything," Danny said. "Hotel footage, photos, witnesses, anything that proves they were together." Hawk nodded slowly. "I've got contacts in Berlin. Good ones. Give me 2 weeks. You'll have your fee tomorrow," Danny said, sliding across an envelope with the retainer Amy had specified. "One more thing," Hawk added, pocketing the envelope. "I assume you want dirt on this Aaron character too?" Danny's eyes hardened. "Everything you can find." Over the next 2 weeks, Danny maintained a careful facade at home. He and Ellie existed in frigid parallel, sharing space but never connecting. She made several attempts to discuss the pregnancy, each time met with stony silence or clinical requests to direct all communication through their lawyers. Ellie's lawyer, Richard Black, proved to be exactly the kind of sleazy attorney Danny had expected. His first letter arrived full of thinly veiled threats and demands for substantial alimony and child support. "He's fishing," Amy said during their next meeting, tossing Black's letter aside. "He knows their position is weak, so he's trying to intimidate us into a settlement." "No settlements," Danny replied firmly. "I want this played out in court." "Good," Amy smiled, because Hawk just sent his first report. The photos spread across Amy's desk told a damning story. Ellie and Aaron in Berlin, not just together but intimate. Coffee shops, restaurants, his apartment building. Hawk had documented it all. But the most damaging evidence came from their hotel. Security footage, Amy explained, showing Danny the timestamps. They weren't even trying to be discreet. Same floor, adjoining rooms, coming and going together at all hours. Danny stared at the images, his expression unchanging. "Send copies to her lawyer. Let's see how they try to explain this." The response came swiftly. Black requested an urgent meeting, suggesting they could resolve this amicably. Danny declined through Amy, instead directing her to file their counterpetition with the additional evidence. When Ellie received the photos, her reaction shattered any remaining doubts about her guilt. She burst into Danny's home office, face flushed with rage and fear. "You had me followed?" she shrieked, throwing the photos on his desk. "You're insane." Danny didn't look up from his work. "I believe all communications should go through our lawyers, Eleanor." "Don't you Eleanor me. You had no right." "I had every right." He cut her off, finally meeting her gaze. "Just like you had every right to sleep with Aaron in Berlin. Funny how rights work, isn't it? This." She gestured at the photos, voice breaking. "This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" Danny's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Because it looks like you've been having an affair with your college friend. It looks like you went to Europe not to find yourself, but to continue that affair. And it looks like you came back with a convenient pregnancy you're trying to pin on me." Tears started falling down Ellie's cheeks. "Danny, please. We can work this out. Think about the baby." "Get a paternity test," he interrupted. "Prove it's mine. Then we could talk about the baby. You know those tests can be dangerous during pregnancy. There are safe options for prenatal paternity testing. But you already knew that, didn't you? You're just afraid of the results." Ellie's tears stopped abruptly, replaced by cold fury. "You want to play hardball? Fine. I'll tell everyone about your anger issues, about how you drove me away. By all means." Danny gestured to his laptop. Tell them how I drove you away right into Aaron's bed. I'm sure the judge will love that logic." "You bastard," she hissed. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "Enjoying what?" "Watching you destroy our marriage. Listening to you lie about abuse that never happened? Or maybe you mean enjoying the proof that you're trying to commit paternity fraud?" He stood slowly. "No, Eleanor, I'm not enjoying any of this. But I'm going to make sure you and Aaron pay for every single lie." Ellie stormed out, slamming doors in her wake. Danny sat back down, opened his documentation file, and added another entry. Wife confronted with evidence of affair. Refused paternity test. Attempted to make false abuse allegations. That evening, he met Ben at his bar after closing. His friend poured them both a drink as Danny recounted the day's events. "Damn," Ben whistled low. "When I told you to document everything, I didn't expect this." "Neither did I." Danny took a slow sip of his whiskey. "But here we are. What's your next move?" Danny's eyes held a dangerous glint. "We wait. Hawk is still digging into Aaron's background. And something tells me there's more to this story than just an affair." "You've changed, man," Ben observed, not unkindly. The old Danny would have been devastated by all this. The old Danny died the moment she tried to pass off another man's child as mine. He finished his drink. "I'm done being the nice guy, Ben. They want to play games? I'll show them what games really look like." As Danny drove home that night, his mind was already racing with possibilities. The evidence was mounting, the trap was set, and soon, very soon, he would spring it. The foundation of betrayal had been laid. Now it was time to build something new on top of it. His revenge. Chapter 4. The paternity test results. Danny sat in Amy's office, staring at the manila envelope that contained the paternity test results. The morning sun streamed through the windows, but he felt cold inside. Amy watched him with a mixture of professional detachment and personal concern. "Do you want me to open it?" she asked, reaching for the envelope. "No." Danny's voice was firm. "This is something I need to do myself." He tore open the envelope with precise movements, unfolded the paper, and scanned the contents. His jaw tightened, the only visible sign of the rage building inside him. "Well," Amy leaned forward. Danny placed the results on her desk. "Not mine." Just as we suspected, Amy reviewed the document, her expression hardening. "This is irrefutable evidence of her deception. We can use this to destroy her case completely." "Schedule a meeting with Black and Ellie," Danny said, standing up. "I want to see their faces when they read this." 2 days later, they gathered in Amy's conference room. Richard Black swaggered in with Ellie, his expensive suit and oily smile a stark contrast to Amy's crisp professionalism. Ellie wore a loose-fitting dress, her hand protectively over her stomach, a gesture that now made Danny's blood boil. "Let's make this quick," Black announced, settling into his chair. "My client is in a delicate condition, and—" "Your client is a fraud," Amy interrupted, sliding copies of the paternity test across the table. "And we have proof." The color drained from Ellie's face as she read the results. Black's smile faltered as he snatched up his copy. This is inadmissible, Black sputtered. The test must be faulty. The test was conducted at 3 separate labs, Amy countered, all with the same result. Your client attempted to commit paternity fraud. Danny, Ellie's voice quavered. There must be some mistake. The only mistake, Danny cut in, his voice arctic, was thinking you could get away with this. Black attempted to regain control. These results could be falsified. We'll need our own tests. By all means, Amy smiled sharply. Order as many tests as you like. The results won't change. Your client is carrying another man's child while attempting to extort my client for support. That's fraud, counselor. I never meant, Ellie began. Save it. Danny stood, towering over the table. You meant exactly what you did. You and Aaron planned this, didn't you? Get pregnant, come back, claim it's mine, and drain me for everything you could get. Aaron has nothing to do with. Enough! Danny slammed his hand on the table, making both Ellie and Black jump. I have the hotel receipts, the photos, everything. You weren't alone in Berlin, were you? You never were. Tears streamed down Ellie's face. Please, Danny, let me explain. Ms. Hayes, Amy interjected smoothly. I advise you to stop speaking. Anything you say right now could be used against you in court. Black finally found his voice. This meeting is over. We'll need time to verify these results. You have 24 hours, Amy stated. After that, we file our counterpetition with evidence of fraud. Your client won't just lose her claims for support. She'll be facing criminal charges. As Black hustled Ellie toward the door, Danny called out, Oh, and Eleanor? Tell Aaron I said hello. You might want to start setting aside money for child support. After they left, Amy turned to Danny. That was brutal. They haven't seen brutal yet. Danny pulled out his phone. Call Hawk. Tell him to dig deeper into Aaron. I want everything: business dealings, financial records, personal life. Everything. What are you planning? They tried to destroy my life. Danny's eyes glinted with cold determination. Now I'm going to destroy theirs. Over the next week, Hawk's investigation revealed a gold mine of information. Aaron's tech company, while successful on the surface, was built on a foundation of questionable practices and cut corners. Multiple former employees had complaints about unethical behavior, and several business deals looked suspiciously like fraud. Look at this. Hawk spread photographs across Danny's kitchen table. Your boy Aaron likes to play fast and loose with investor money. Here he is at high-end clubs, luxury car dealerships, all charged to company accounts. Danny examined the evidence. Can you get more details on these business deals? Already working on it. His company's latest product launch? The technology stolen from a smaller competitor. I've got emails proving he knew about it. Perfect. Danny began organizing the documents. Any connection between him and Ellie before Berlin? Phone records show they've been in contact for at least 8 months. Way before she left for Europe. Danny's hands stilled. 8 months? Yeah, and get this, they had a joint account set up 6 months ago. Been moving money into it regularly. The betrayal cut deeper, but Danny's expression remained unchanged. Send everything to Amy. We're going to need it for court. That evening, Danny received a call from Black's office. They wanted to settle. Not a chance, he told Amy. I want this in court. I want everything on record. It'll get ugly, Amy warned. They'll try to smear you. Let them try. We have proof of their lies. And soon, he smiled coldly, we'll have so much more. Chapter 5. The Legal Labyrinth. The courthouse buzzed with tension as the proceedings began. Black had launched an aggressive campaign to paint Danny as an abusive, controlling husband who had driven Ellie away. But Amy was ready. Your Honor, Black pontificated. My client fled to Europe in fear for her safety. Mr. Hayes displayed increasingly erratic and aggressive behavior. Objection, Your Honor. Amy stood. Counsel is making unsubstantiated claims. We have extensive documentation proving otherwise. She presented a timeline of Danny's activities during the period in question. Work records, witness statements, even receipts from his regular therapy sessions that he'd started for stress management. Furthermore, Amy continued, we have evidence that Ms. Hayes' trip to Europe was anything but a fearful escape. The courtroom stirred as Amy displayed the hotel receipts, credit card statements, and photographs from Berlin. Images of Ellie and Aaron together, clearly intimate, clearly happy, clearly not afraid. This was no escape, Amy's voice rang out. This was a planned rendezvous with her lover, funded partly by my client's money. Black jumped up. Objection. These photos were obtained through illegal surveillance. Overruled. The judge examined the evidence. These were taken in public places, counselor, and the hotel records are properly obtained business documents. As the evidence mounted, reporters in the gallery scribbled furiously. The story was too juicy to ignore. A successful businessman's wife running off with a tech entrepreneur attempting to pass off their child as her husband's, all while planning to extract maximum financial gain. During a recess, a reporter approached Danny outside the courtroom. Mr. Hayes, how do you respond to your wife's allegations of abuse? Danny turned to face the cameras, his composure perfect. I responded with evidence, documented proof that those allegations are false. The real story here is one of calculated deception. My wife didn't just have an affair. She attempted to commit fraud. And she's not the only one who needs to answer for their actions. The reporter leaned in. Are you referring to Aaron Chin? No comment on specific individuals. But I will say this. When people abuse trust and manipulate others for financial gain, eventually the truth comes out. The media frenzy exploded. News outlets picked up the story, running headlines about the scandalous affair and attempted fraud. But it wasn't just the salacious details that caught their attention. Hints about Aaron's business practices began circulating. In the courtroom, Black grew increasingly desperate. He tried to exclude evidence, made procedural objections, even attempted to claim the paternity test was inadmissible. Amy shut him down at every turn. Your Honor, she addressed the court, the pattern is clear. Ms. Hayes and her paramour planned this deception carefully. They set up joint accounts months before her departure. They coordinated their stories. They attempted to use pregnancy as leverage for financial gain. This isn't just a divorce case. It's a calculated scheme to defraud my client. Ellie sat at the defendant's table, her face ashen. She no longer tried to maintain the pretense of being the victim. As Amy presented more evidence, text messages, bank statements, travel records, Ellie seemed to shrink into herself. During another recess, she approached Danny in the courthouse corridor. Please, she whispered, you're destroying everything. Danny looked at her with cold eyes. No, Eleanor, you destroyed everything the moment you decided to betray me. I'm just making sure you face the consequences. I'll lose everything, my business, my reputation. You should have thought of that before you try to pass off another man's child as mine. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm sorry, I never meant. Save your performance for someone who still believes your lies. Danny turned away. Oh, and Eleanor? This is just the beginning. Back in the courtroom, Amy presented their final piece of evidence. Proof that Ellie had been sending confidential information about Danny's finances to Aaron months before leaving. Your Honor, Amy concluded, we ask not only for a divorce, but for Ms. Hayes to be held financially responsible for her attempted fraud. We also request that all legal fees be paid by the defendant, given the egregious nature of her actions. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. Divorce granted. No alimony. All legal fees to be paid by Ellie. The courtroom erupted in murmurs as Ellie collapsed into tears. But Danny wasn't finished. As reporters swarmed outside the courthouse, he gave them just enough hints about Aaron's business practices to spark their interest. The next phase of his revenge was about to begin. Chapter 6. The Turning of the Tide. The media's attention shifted from the divorce scandal to Aaron's business dealings like sharks scenting blood. Danny had carefully fed selected information to key reporters, watching as they unraveled the threads of corruption he'd discovered. Tech entrepreneur under investigation, the headlines blared. Startup success built on stolen technology? Aaron's company's stock plummeted as investors began asking questions. Former employees, emboldened by the scrutiny, came forward with stories of unethical practices and misused funds. In his apartment, Danny reviewed the latest news coverage with Hawk. The SEC is launching a formal investigation, Hawk reported. Those financial records we found? They're just the tip of the iceberg. Danny nodded, satisfaction coursing through him. And Ellie? Her clients are dropping her like hot potatoes. Nobody wants to work with someone involved in a fraud scandal. She's tried reaching out to her old contacts, but they've all seen the evidence we leaked. Danny smiled coldly. Good. The evidence hadn't just been about the affair or the attempted paternity fraud. Danny had made sure Ellie's professional deceptions came to light. Times she'd overcharged clients, projects she'd claimed as her own that were actually done by subcontractors, emails showing her sharing confidential client information with Aaron. Her graphic design business was in free fall. Former clients were demanding audits of their accounts. Professional organizations were distancing themselves. The woman who had tried to destroy Danny's life was watching her own crumble instead. Amy called with updates from the legal front. Black tried to appeal the ruling, but it was denied. Ellie's on the hook for all legal fees, and there's talk of criminal charges for the fraud attempt. What about Aaron? The SEC investigation is picking up steam. They're looking into those offshore accounts Hawk found. It's not looking good for him. Danny hung up and poured himself a drink. The satisfaction of revenge coursed through him, but he wasn't done yet. He opened his laptop and began composing emails, carefully worded messages to Aaron's investors, board members, and business partners, sharing his concerns about certain practices he'd happened to discover. The response was immediate. Board members began calling emergency meetings. Investors started pulling out. Aaron's carefully constructed empire began to show cracks. A week later, Danny received a furious call from Aaron himself. You bastard, Aaron snarled. You're trying to destroy my company. Me? Danny's voice dripped with false innocence. I'm just a concerned citizen sharing information about potentially illegal business practices. Isn't that what good corporate governance is all about? I'll sue you for defamation. Please do. Discovery would be fascinating. All those financial records, emails, offshore accounts. I'm sure the SEC would be very interested. Aaron's voice turned desperate. What do you want? Money? I'll pay you to stop this. I don't want your money, Aaron. I want you to suffer. Like I suffered when you helped my wife try to pass off your child as mine. Consider this karma. The news grew worse for Aaron Daly. His company's stock went into freefall. Investors filed lawsuits. The SEC investigation expanded. His reputation in the tech world, once golden, was now toxic. Ellie wasn't faring any better. Danny had made sure their entire social circle knew about her deception. Her family, who had once treated Danny like a son, now refused to speak to her. Former friends crossed the street to avoid her. Her professional network had evaporated. She made one last attempt to reach Danny, showing up at his apartment unannounced. You've won, she said, her voice hollow. Isn't that enough? Danny looked at her. The woman he'd once loved, now revealed as a manipulative fraud. No, Eleanor, it's not enough. You try to trap me with another man's child. You try to destroy my life for money. Actions have consequences. I'm going to lose everything. Yes, he agreed. You are. Just like you planned for me to lose everything. The difference is, you deserve it. He closed the door on her tears, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. The second act of his revenge was complete, but he knew there was more to come. The tide had turned, and he would make sure it swept away everything Ellie and Aaron had built their lives upon. Chapter 7. The Fallout. Ellie stared at the eviction notice posted on her apartment door. Her hands trembled as she tore it down, adding it to the growing pile of final notices and demands for payment. Inside, her once pristine living space had devolved into a mess of packed boxes and desperate attempts to salvage what remained of her life. Her phone buzzed, another client terminating their contract. The message was polite but firm. Given recent events, we feel it's best to part ways. She didn't bother responding anymore. Her design business, built over years of networking and reputation building, had crumbled in weeks. She opened her laptop, confronting the reality of her situation through her bank statement. The legal fees had drained her accounts, and no new clients were coming in. Her phone rang, her mother's number. Hello. Ellie's voice cracked. Eleanor, her mother's tone was ice. Your father and I received the full documentation from Danny's lawyer. Mom, I can explain. Explain? Explain how you tried to pass off another man's child as Danny's? Explain how you planned to extort money from the man who loved you. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. We raised you better than this. Your father can't even speak about it. He's so ashamed. The call ended with a click, leaving Ellie alone with her thoughts. She scrolled through social media, each post a fresh reminder of her fall from grace. Former friends shared articles about her case, adding their own condemning comments. Professional groups had revoked her memberships. Even her college alumni association had distanced themselves. Across town, Aronson sat in his empty office, watching movers cart away company furniture. His tech empire, built on stolen ideas and fraudulent practices, was collapsing. The SEC investigation had triggered a domino effect. Investors pulling out, partners canceling contracts, employees jumping ship. His phone rang, his lawyer again. Chun, the lawyer's voice was grim. The board just voted. You're out. They can't do that. I built this company on fraud according to the evidence. The SEC is expanding their investigation. They're looking at personal charges now. Aaron slumped in his chair. How bad? Bad. The evidence they have, someone did their homework. They've got emails, financial records, witness statements. You're looking at serious time? After hanging up, Aaron pulled up his bank accounts. His personal assets were frozen pending investigation. The empire he built was slipping through his fingers like sand. Danny observed their downfall from a distance, receiving regular updates from Hawk. He sat in his office, reviewing the latest reports with cold satisfaction. Ellie's credit score is tanked, Hawk explained. She's been blacklisted from most professional organizations. Those photos we leaked? They're still circulating. Nobody will touch her with a 10-foot pole. And Aaron, the SEC investigation is just the beginning. I've got 3 former employees ready to testify about his illegal practices. His board is preparing a lawsuit. The tech community has branded him toxic. Danny nodded, satisfaction coursing through him. Any contact between them? Aaron's blocked her calls. Seems he blames her for exposing his schemes. Perfect. That evening, Danny received an unexpected visitor. Richard Black, Ellie's former lawyer, stood in his doorway, looking decidedly less smug than during the court proceedings. Mr. Hayes, Black shifted uncomfortably. I need to discuss something with you. Danny leaned against his doorframe. Your hourly rate must be getting desperate, counselor. This isn't about money. It's about Ellie. She's not well. Not my problem. She's living in her car. She's pregnant. She needs to face the consequences of her actions. Danny cut him off, like attempting to commit paternity fraud. Or was that your idea, counselor? Black paled. I never. Save it. You're lucky I haven't reported you to the Bar Association. Yet. After Black left, Danny poured himself a drink. He felt no pity for Ellie or her situation. She'd made her choices, plotted her schemes. Now she could live with the results. His phone buzzed with a text from Amy. Just heard Aaron's company file for bankruptcy. The SEC found evidence of massive fraud. They're talking criminal charges. Danny smiled. His revenge wasn't just successful, it was devastating. He'd stripped away their facades, exposed their true natures to the world, and watched as everything they'd built on lies crumbled to dust. Later that week, he spotted Ellie outside his office building. She looked nothing like the confident woman who'd returned from Europe. Her designer clothes had been replaced by worn garments, her polished appearance now haggard. Danny, please, she called out. I need help. He walked past her without a glance. Her pleas echoed behind him, but he felt nothing. The woman he'd once loved was gone, replaced by a stranger who'd tried to destroy him. Her tears meant nothing to him now. Ben met him for drinks that evening, concern etched on his face. I heard about Ellie, he said carefully. Living in her car. She made her bed, Danny replied coldly. Now she can sleep in it. And Aaron, facing criminal charges. His reputation is destroyed. His company's worthless. Danny's smile was razor sharp. Exactly as planned. Ben studied his friend. You've changed, man. I had to. They tried to destroy me, Ben. Instead, I destroyed them. And how does it feel? Danny considered the question. It feels like justice. Chapter 8, The Unexpected Twist. The manila envelope arrived on Danny's desk without warning. No return address, no identifying marks. Inside, he found a stack of detailed financial documents, offshore account statements, tax records, and complex money transfers, all linked to Aaron Shin. But it was the handwritten note that caught his attention. The writing seemed familiar, elegant cursive that tugged at his memory. The note was brief, but devastating. The affair didn't start in Europe. They've been planning this for years. Aaron used Ellie to access other companies' information through their graphic design contracts. Here's proof of where the money went. Danny studied the handwriting, recognition slowly dawning. He'd seen it before in Christmas cards and birthday wishes. Olivia Chun, Aaron's younger sister. He called Hawk immediately. I need everything you can find on Olivia Chun. The investigation revealed a complex web of relationships. Olivia had worked in Aaron's company's financial department, witnessing her brother's fraudulent practices firsthand. She'd watched as he manipulated people, including Ellie, for his own gain. Danny arranged a meeting with Olivia at a quiet cafe. She arrived punctually, her resemblance to Aaron striking, but with none of his arrogance. Why did you send me this? Danny asked without preamble. Olivia's hands wrapped around her coffee cup. Because Aaron needs to be stopped. He's hurt too many people. Including you? She nodded. I trusted him, looked up to him. Then I saw what he really was, a fraud who'd destroy anyone for profit. Tell me about Ellie. She wasn't just his lover. She was his tool. He used her design contracts to access confidential information from other tech companies. That's how he stole their innovations. Danny leaned forward. How long? 3 years. They planned it all. The affair, the pregnancy, the attempt to get your money. Aaron needed cash to cover his tracks. Your wife. Olivia's expression hardened. She was a willing participant. Why come forward now? Because I've watched him destroy lives, steal people's work, ruin careers. When I saw what they tried to do to you, she pushed more documents across the table. Here's everything: bank records, emails, meeting notes. Use it. Danny studied her. This will destroy your brother completely. He stopped being my brother the day he chose greed over decency. The documents proved to be a goldmine. Hawk's investigation confirmed everything. The long-term affair, the corporate espionage, the planned deception. Aaron hadn't just been running a fraudulent company. He'd been orchestrating a years-long scheme with Ellie's willing help. Danny took the evidence to Amy. Her eyes widened as she reviewed the documents. This changes everything, she said. This isn't just fraud, it's corporate espionage. Securities violations. We're talking serious federal charges. Make it happen. The response was swift and devastating. The SEC launched a full investigation. The FBI became involved. Aaron's remaining assets were frozen. Ellie's role in the corporate espionage emerged, destroying any sympathy she might have garnered as a pregnant woman down on her luck. Danny received a desperate call from Aaron. You can't do this, Aaron's voice cracked. You don't understand what's at stake. I understand perfectly. You and Ellie didn't just plan to betray me. You've been betraying people for years. Now you'll both pay for it. I'll make you a deal. Money, shares, anything. The only deal you'll be making is with federal prosecutors. Danny hung up, satisfaction coursing through him. The media exploded with new revelations. Headlines screamed about corporate espionage and years of fraud. Aaron's remaining business connections evaporated. Ellie's few remaining clients disappeared as her role in the schemes became public. Danny met with Olivia again, this time in his office. Thank you, he said simply. She shook her head. I should have come forward sooner. Maybe fewer people would have been hurt. You did the right thing now. That's what matters. As Olivia left, Danny felt a grim satisfaction. The revenge he'd planned had been devastating, but this was annihilation. Aaron and Ellie hadn't just lost their current lives. They'd lost any chance of rebuilding them. Chapter 9. The New Dawn. 6 months later, Danny sat in his therapist's office, discussing the changes in his life. The revelation of Aaron and Ellie's long-term deception had marked the end of his active revenge, but its effects continued to ripple through his life. How do you feel about their sentencing? Dr. Marcus asked. Aaron got 15 years for fraud and corporate espionage. Ellie's facing 5 years for her role. Danny's voice was neutral. It's appropriate, and How does that make you feel? Satisfied. They tried to destroy me. Instead, I destroyed them. Do you regret any of it? Danny considered the question. I regret trusting them. I regret not seeing the signs earlier. But my response? No. They deserved everything they got. The therapy sessions weren't about forgiveness or healing. They were about understanding his transformation. The man who'd emerged from this ordeal was harder, colder, but also more aware of his own strength. After his session, Danny met Ben and Amy for dinner at their regular spot. Their friendship had deepened through the ordeal, becoming something stronger and more honest. Did you hear? Ben asked. Ellie's family sold their house, moving away to escape the scandal. Danny nodded. Actions have consequences, not just for her, but for everyone around her. The tech community's still reeling from Aaron's case, Amy added. It's become a cautionary tale. Good, Danny said. Let them learn from it. Later that week, Danny closed on a new house, far from his old neighborhood. As he unpacked boxes, he came across old photos of his life with Ellie. Without hesitation, he dropped them in the trash. The past was dead. He had a new life to build. He'd started donating to organizations that helped victims of fraud, using some of the money recovered from Ellie's legal settlements. Not out of guilt or redemption, but because he understood now how devastating betrayal could be. His career had flourished, his reputation for ruthless efficiency earning him respect in the corporate world. Those who knew his story saw him differently now, not as a victim, but as someone who'd turned victimization into victory. One evening, as he worked late in his new home office, he received an email from Olivia. Aaron was trying to appeal his sentence. The news didn't bother him. He had enough evidence to bury Aaron 10 times over. Danny's phone buzzed with a text from Amy. Dinner tomorrow? I've got news about a potential case. Right up your alley. He smiled. Life moved forward, and so had he. Not as the same person who'd trusted blindly, but as someone stronger, wiser, and utterly unforgiving of betrayal. The man who'd once loved Ellie unconditionally was gone. In his place stood someone who understood that true strength came not from forgiveness, but from the willingness to deliver justice, no matter the cost. Epilogue. 5 years later, Daniel Hayes stood at the podium, addressing a room full of business executives and legal professionals. At 39, he transformed from a mid-level marketing manager into one of the most respected corporate consultants specializing in fraud prevention and corporate espionage protection. His dark suit and commanding presence drew all eyes in the conference room. The Chun Hayes case, he began, his voice carrying authority, wasn't just about personal betrayal. It exposed vulnerabilities in corporate security that many companies still haven't addressed. When your graphic designer has access to confidential materials, who else has access through them? The audience leaned forward, captivated. Danny had turned his experience into a powerful cautionary tale, using it to build a consulting empire. His firm, Hayes Security Solutions, had become the go-to authority for companies wanting to protect themselves from insider threats. After his presentation, several executives approached him for private consultations. Danny's reputation preceded him. He was known for his ruthless efficiency and uncompromising standards. His personal story had become legend in corporate circles, though he rarely discussed the details publicly. Back in his office, Danny reviewed the latest reports from his network of investigators. He'd maintained his connection with Hawk, eventually hiring him to lead his firm's investigation division. Their partnership had proven incredibly successful, with Hawk's street smarts complementing Danny's corporate expertise. Got an interesting case, Hawk said, dropping a file on Danny's desk. Reminds me of old times. Wife trying to scam her way into controlling company shares through a fake pregnancy. Danny's lips curved into a cold smile. Send them my consultation rates. I'll take it personally. His phone buzzed, a text from Ben. After all these years, Ben had remained his closest friend, though his life had changed dramatically too. The former bartender had partnered with Danny to open an upscale lounge that catered to corporate clients, using his natural networking skills to build a successful business. Annual dinner still on for tonight? Ben's text read. Amy says she's bringing someone. Danny replied affirmatively. Their annual reunion dinners had become a tradition, a way to maintain the bonds forged during his darkest days. Amy had risen to prominence in family law, her handling of the Chun-Hayes case establishing her as one of the city's premier divorce attorneys. She specialized in cases involving fraud and deception, often collaborating with Danny's firm. Before leaving the office, Danny checked the latest news about his former wife. Ellie had been released from prison 2 years ago after serving her 5-year sentence. Her attempt to rebuild her life had proven futile. Her role in the corporate espionage scheme had made her unemployable in any professional capacity. Last he'd heard, she was working as a waitress in a small town on the West Coast, using her maiden name to avoid recognition. Aaron Chin's fate had been harsher. 12 years remained on his sentence, and multiple appeals had failed. The evidence provided by his sister Olivia had been too comprehensive, too damning to overcome. His tech empire had been dissolved, its assets sold off to compensate victims of his fraudulent schemes. Speaking of Olivia, she had flourished in the aftermath of her brother's downfall. Danny had hired her as his company's financial compliance officer, recognizing her integrity and expertise. She'd helped develop many of their fraud detection protocols, turning her intimate knowledge of corporate fraud into a force for prevention. Danny arrived at the restaurant, an exclusive establishment where Ben had reserved their usual private room. Amy was already there, along with her guest, a distinguished-looking judge she'd been seeing for several months. "Danny," she hugged him warmly. "Just finished a case you might be interested in. Corporate wife trying to hide assets through cryptocurrency." "Amateur," Danny smiled. "They never learn." Ben arrived with his wife Sarah, a former client from his bartending days who'd helped him develop his business plan. They'd married 2 years ago, with Danny serving as best man. As they settled into dinner, the conversation flowed naturally to their current lives and successes. None of them were the same people they'd been 5 years ago. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed Danny had instead catalyzed all their transformations. "Remember when I told you to document everything?" Ben laughed. "Never imagined it would lead to all this." "Best advice I ever got," Danny acknowledged. "Speaking of documentation, how's the new security system working out?" Ben beamed. "Your team's setup is incredible. Had 3 different people try to pull insurance scams last month. Caught them all on camera." Amy's judge friend, Robert, leaned forward with interest. "I've seen your name come up in several corporate fraud cases, Mr. Hayes. Your reputation for thoroughness is quite impressive." "I learned the hard way that trust needs to be verified," Danny replied. "Everyone has an angle. The trick is spotting it before they can play it." The conversation turned to their latest projects. Amy was preparing to argue a case before the Supreme Court, challenging laws that made it difficult to prosecute sophisticated fraud schemes. Ben's lounge was expanding to a second location. Danny's firm had just landed a contract to protect a major tech company's intellectual property. After dinner, Danny drove to his home in an exclusive gated community. The house was modern and secure, equipped with state-of-the-art surveillance systems. He'd learned to value privacy and protection above all else. In his home office, he reviewed some files Hawk had sent over. His firm had recently started tracking a pattern of corporate espionage similar to Aaron's methods. Danny suspected one of Aaron's former associates was trying to rebuild the operation. His phone rang, Olivia Chun calling from the office. "You need to see this," she said without preamble. "I found something in the new case's financials. It's elegant. Would have missed it if I hadn't seen Aaron use similar methods." "Send it over." "And Olivia?" "Good work." Danny pulled up the file she sent, admiring the detailed analysis. Olivia had proven to be one of his most valuable team members, her determination to prevent others from suffering like she had driving her to excellence. A notification popped up on his screen. One of his monitoring systems had picked up a news article. Ellie had apparently tried to return to graphic design, attempting to freelance under an assumed name. Her deception had been quickly exposed, leading to another professional rejection. Danny felt nothing reading the news. The woman who had tried to destroy him was now a cautionary tale, a warning to others about the consequences of betrayal. Her child, Aaron's child, had been adopted by a family in Minnesota. Danny had made sure, through discreet channels, that the adoption agency knew the child's history. Some truths needed to be preserved. He checked his calendar for the next day. 3 client meetings, 2 consultations, and a lunch with a potential investor. His firm was expanding rapidly, with offices now in 3 cities. The betrayal that had once threatened to destroy him had instead become the foundation of his success. Late that night, Danny stood at his window, looking out over the city. The past 5 years had transformed him from victim to victor, from trusting husband to ruthless businessman. He'd learned that happiness didn't come from forgiveness or healing. It came from strength, from the power to prevent others from harming you. His phone buzzed with a text from Amy. Just got another case. Wife stealing corporate secrets through her husband's laptop. Sound familiar? Danny smiled. Some people never learned, but that's what kept him in business. He'd built an empire on the ashes of betrayal, turning his pain into power, his devastation into dominance. The next morning, Danny arrived at his office early. His assistant handed him a stack of messages. More clients seeking help. More people realizing too late that trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. Hawk was waiting in his office with fresh intel on Aaron. He tried to contact Olivia again. Wanted her to testify for his latest appeal. How did she respond? Didn't. She sent everything to his prosecutors instead. Danny nodded approvingly. Olivia had proven herself loyal and principled. Rare qualities he'd learned to value above all others. His intercom buzzed. Mr. Hayes? Your 9 o'clock is here. Another corporate infidelity case. Send them in. Danny straightened his tie, ready to meet another victim of betrayal. He'd show them what he'd learned. That revenge, when properly executed, wasn't just sweet. It was profitable. The door opened, and Danny rose to greet his new clients. 5 years had passed since his own ordeal, but its lessons remained sharp and clear. Trust was a weapon others used against you. Love was a vulnerability to be guarded against. And revenge, when served cold and calculated, was the best business model of all. His firm's motto, displayed prominently on the wall, said it all. Trust but verify, because tomorrow's too late. The betrayed husband who documented everything had become the man who taught others to do the same. Danny Hayes hadn't just survived. He'd turned survival into an art form, and art into empire. And somewhere in a small-town diner, Eleanor Hayes, now Eleanor Mills again, served coffee to customers who never knew they were being waited on by the woman whose destruction had built an empire. Her attempt to destroy Danny had instead made him stronger, wiser, and ultimately victorious. The game of betrayal had new players, but the rules remained the same. And no one knew those rules better than the man who'd mastered them through his own destruction and rebirth. Danny Hayes had won. Not just his freedom or his revenge, but the ultimate prize, a life where no one would ever dare betray him again. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.